Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. How are you today? How are you today? Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. So today we're going to be doing the water sign readings. And that is going to include Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. I'm going to purify the space first. Using some peppermint hand sanitizer. I also put, I dissolved some camphor in here. So the peppermint and camphor will clear the space nicely. And it does smell nice. For the readings this week, I'm going to be using the Tarot Mukha. And over on the members side of the channel, I'm going to be doing some crystal scrying with this huge chunk of smoky quartz crystal. So let's begin with the sign of Cancer. Now, you might decide to watch this video because you're Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising sign. But you might also have a Cancer Mars placement. Maybe Cancer's in your second house and you want to know where your next paycheck is coming from. We do have the Magician jumping out of the deck. So that's all about your powers of manifestation. You could be working really hard right now to manifest something in particular, Cancer. And if you would like, go ahead and set your intention for the reading, what you'd like to know about, if there's anything in particular. And allow any concerns that you have to float up into the forefront of your thoughts. And just wait there patiently. And if these are things that you find stressful, or if it's causing you anxiety, just gently breathe through that energy. As you inhale, draw in the divine white light of Source. And then as you exhale, just release any of those feelings of tension, anxiety, any discomfort you might be experiencing. Release all of those things right back to Source, and they will be transmuted. Interesting. So I'm going to write down your timestamp, Cancer. And then we can get started. The first card I have for you is going to be the card talking about the past. And this is going to be related to things that led up to the current stage of events. What we have here is the Six of Swords. Now, the Six of Swords can be about a departure, can be about an exodus, can be about a trip. Observe that the person is not alone in the boat. They are being ferried by this ferryman. We do have the swords piercing seemingly the bottom of the boat. That indicates that this card is a transient condition and so will not be a stable place that you will be in for long. So if you are currently traveling a lot, obviously there's a lot of motion, a lot of mobility going on. You're not in one place for too long. We do have this mountain in the background showing that there could be obstacles in your path, but that's not a guarantee necessarily. Now, interestingly, the Six of Swords are an active energy, but in this card we also have a heavy influence of water, and the water brings in a passive element to this situation, so that while you might have planned a lot for this journey, for whatever this trip represents that is in the past, in the upright, there are passive elements on your part that you are not necessarily going to be able to plan every single step of the way. There are things that are going to happen and that you will end up reacting to rather than acting on. And the final aspect of this card that I wanted to address is that it is in the upright in the past. So you could be traveling a lot for work currently. You could be on a trip currently. You could be leaving for a trip, coming back from a trip. Or in a situation even where you've been working for a ride-sharing service or a courier type service and you are leaving that type of employment behind. Those are all possibilities. And I'll trust you to understand best how it fits into your own life. So we have a couple of major arcana cards in your reading. In the place of the significator, we have a very tricky card, which is the Seven of Swords. So that is a progression from the Six of Swords. When you're in this position, it could be easy for people to take advantage of you because things are not clear, things are not well established. The Seven of Swords can be about betrayals, can be about backstabbing, can be about people taking advantage and taking undue advantage. You see that this person is making off with most of the swords, but leaving one or two behind. So that the people in this camp are not totally unarmed, but they will be much more poorly armed than they were previously because of this person's undoing. And this is crossed by the Justice card, which is good. So here we have more sword imagery, more air energy. The Justice card is associated with Libra in the major arcana. So Libra is another cardinal sign. Cancer being a cardinal sign, Libra is also a cardinal sign, which makes you square to each other. Yes. And of course, water being passive, air being active. We have a lot of swords coming out in the past leading into the present situation. And swords, of course, are active air energy, can have to do with communication, can have to do with also sometimes things that are difficult to deal with. But where we have the Justice card crossing the crossing condition of this Seven of Swords, if there has been a betrayal or some kind of somebody taking advantage of you, that is coming to light and it is being corrected at this time. So now we're going to look at the imam sili, which is below the place of the significator and represents the origins and foundations upon which the midheaven card, which is above the significator, that represents the goal or destiny. So all of the foundations and origins of that situation are going to be represented in the imam sili. Now what we have down here in the imam sili is the Two of Cups. So we have two people here on this card who are very fond of each other. This could very well be a romantic situation, a love partnership that you're currently in. But the Two of Cups, this could also be if you're very close with a friend, if you're very good friends with a roommate. It is a mutually vested partnership. And very much Cancerian energy when we're talking about that reciprocity in our emotional relationships. We do have the fixed sign of Leo here above them, and the caduceus. So we're talking about our passions here. So that fifth house correlation to the sign of Leo, talking about passions and the pursuit of those passions in conjunction with another person. We could also see things like this with the Two of Wands, depending on how you read that card. This one is much more specifically about that. So here, from your perspective, we have the Four of Pentacles. And the Four of Pentacles is about saving money. It is about conserving resources, holding on to what you already have. So this Four of Pentacles, you could be saving money. You could be deciding not to go out very much, not to go out to eat. You could even be deciding to get more rest, trying to conserve your energy, not doing as much physically as well. And from an outside perspective, looking in on the situation, here we have another pentacle, and it's showing up in a really interesting way. So we have the Seven of Pentacles now. We had the Seven of Swords come out in the place of the significator. And here, from an outside perspective looking in, we have the Seven of Pentacles, and it's showing up in the reverse. So someone who is working with you possibly, or someone who is observing you, perhaps a concerned parent or other interested, invested party, might see in your situation that you're working very hard and you're not getting the payoff that you deserve in something. This could have to do with, of course, this Seven of Swords situation, that somebody might be taking advantage of you. As I mentioned, this is coming to light at this time. But somebody might have kind of nudged you to say, hey, I don't think that you're being fairly compensated in a situation. And the Seven of Pentacles is primarily about financial resources and physical material resources, right? But it can also relate to your energy. If you're putting more into a relationship than what someone else is giving back, and that would be talking about this Two of Cups, right? Now, the Two of Cups is showing up in the upright. And if you look in the background, we don't have any mountains back here. We have some gently kind of rolling terrain. And we also have way in the distance this castle, which could be an eventual payoff of some kind in this relationship. So it's not as likely that this is going on in a love relationship. And in fact, I see here that you're saving in order to perhaps purchase a home. We do have lots of buildings behind that Four of Pentacles figure. Here in the future for you, Cancer. We have the Four of Cups in the upright. And this Four of Cups is about choices that you might have. It could be about having a few things that you're deciding between, and then your ideal choice is kind of up here. Now, these choices could be perfectly fine, but maybe it's not exactly what you want, and you're waiting for this to show up. So there's kind of an aspect of waiting to that Four of Cups. And it's similar to this Four of Pentacles that we have here. Now, Cancer is the ruler of the fourth house. You might want to see what is going on in your own fourth house as far as your natal chart is concerned. The fourth house has to do with home and family life. So there might be aspects of that to consider in the current situation as well. And we do have up here in the hopes and fears, we have the Five of Wands. And the Five of Wands is a card about this competition. All of these people are kind of fighting with each other. They do look very serious, but they are all pretty evenly matched. So none of them are more armed than the others, and they all have very similar armor on. So they're all practicing against each other for a time that may come when they need to fight side by side. And that might be what you're hoping for in this current situation, Cancer. That rather than seeing it as a situation where you're putting in a lot and not getting very much back, you see it more as an opportunity to spar with others, to have this creative feedback more so than maybe a financial payoff. But I would caution you to guard your energies for those of you who are not mutually vested in a situation with others, energy-wise, that you're putting in much more energy than they are. Especially because this card is showing up in opposition to the Four of Pentacles. And I do apologize. My chat window doesn't seem to be showing up today, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. Let me see if I can change some of the settings and get it to show up. No, it looks like So if you comment anything in the chat, I'm not going to be able to see it. I do apologize. And I do realize that that's a lot of the fun of being on a live stream. So I apologize for that. I'm not sure why that is occurring. But I'm just going to continue pressing through this reading. And then see if I can figure it out. So showing up in your midheaven, Cancer. This is going to be the result of this relationship, this close partnership that you're a part of. Whether that is a love relationship or a very close friendship, we have showing up in the midheaven the moon card, and it is in the reverse. So a result of this relationship is going to be that the moon card, where we have things being unclear, you have the influence of this other person and the insight of their perspective, and perhaps that makes things much more clear to you where a lot of these things are concerned. The light of the moon is not very bright, so perhaps there have been situations in your life where things were obscured, especially if people have been taking advantage of you. And that in order to bring in that justice, the perspective of this confidant, this person that you're very close to, is going to bring this more into perspective with the moon card. And this could be a lot of different revelations coming to light. Especially if you've had some very long held beliefs about your own place in the world, that perhaps you are coming to see through someone else's eyes. Things like that. Maybe you've been taken advantage of. Your energy's been taken advantage of. And this might help you see more options as well. You might see that more things are available to you than you previously thought. So now the outcome, the final outcome for your reading, and what I consider to be kind of like the advice of the reading, we have the Ace of Wands in the reverse. And this is showing up in opposition to this Seven of Pentacles in the reverse. And it's also showing up kind of in the same line above the Four of Pentacles. So what I'm taking from this Ace of Wands here, the Ace of Wands is about creative force. Now remember, we had the Magician jump out of the deck. And so the Ace of Wands coming out here in the reverse is encouraging you not to share necessarily your ideas with others, and not to share your energy as much with others. This is pure elemental fire energy, and it belongs to you, Cancer. Now, remember, on this card, we do have mention of that with the caduceus that we see here above the heads of that couple, right? So it's not saying don't ever shine your light, but don't shine your light for those who are not going to be reflecting it back to you, because that's what the moon is doing. It's reflecting the light of the sun and using the sun's light to be a luminary in its own right. So if you are the sun in this situation, Cancer, you want to make sure that the other luminaries who are reflecting and mirroring your light are equally yoked and not just stealing your shine. So that is going to be the Cancer reading for this week. Thank you for joining me. I do apologize, for some reason my chat window is not working in this live stream, so rather than exit the live stream and come back, I'm just going to go through the whole water signs and see if I can figure out why it's doing that later. After I am done with the Scorpio and Pisces readings, I am going to go over to the members side of the channel and do some crystal scrying with a beautiful chunk of smoky quartz. So if that is of interest to you, you are cordially invited. But your presence here on the channel is greatly appreciated in whatever form it takes. So next I am going to be doing the sign of Scorpio. Scorpio. And a big hello to all of you who are here in the live stream right now. I do want to mention again that I'm unable to see your comments in the chat. I'm not sure why. I'll figure it out later though. And Scorpio, some of you might have had your own feelings about the Scorpio full moon and lunar eclipse that we just had last night. Always quite spectacular. I didn't get to see very much of it because I live on the West Coast and because I went to see a movie last night around that time. But I definitely have been feeling it. So Scorpio, if you would, just go ahead and set your intention for the reading. Allow any issues that you'd like to address to float up into the forefront of your thoughts and just kind of gently wait there. And if any of these things are stressful to you or they're causing you discomfort, I invite you to gently breathe through that energy. And as you inhale, draw in the divine white light of Source. And then as you exhale, just release any of that tension or stress right back to Source, and it will be transmuted. Okay, Scorpio, so let me write down your timestamp just quickly. And okay, let's jump right in. So here in the past, we have the Nine of Swords, and this card is showing up in the upright. So where we have the Nine of Swords, we're looking at stressors. We're looking at things that keep you up at night. We're looking at anxiety, things that are mostly contained within the realm of your own thoughts and imagination, as a matter of fact. Not that the things causing the stress don't exist, but your level of stress, while not necessarily chosen by you, is definitely separate from the sources of that stress, such that things that cause you stress might not cause somebody else stress, if that makes sense. Not to reduce it, but to help you understand kind of more how this card relates to current situations and past situations. So, because this card is in the upright and it's in the past, this is related to things that have been stressful for you, that you're kind of coming out of this period of time in your life where things have been stressful. Here in the place of the significator, we have an astoundingly good card for you, Scorpio. And that card is the Magician. This card is showing up upright in its exalted form. We have all of the suits of the minor arcana here, the tools of the magician, showing their mastery over their craft. We do have these red flowers up here at the top. So sometimes I talk about the symbolism of white and red flowers in the tarot, and the tarot mukha actually has like a lot of red flowers in it. The red flowers can represent that sacred knowledge. We have the white flowers, or they're kind of like a light pink in the hair of the magician, showing that innocence, that purity, whereas the red blossoms are the forbidden knowledge. So there's a contrast there, but both are present on the card, showing that the magician may choose which path they prefer and that they do have access to both. So you might be manifesting something at this time, and your manifestation might be coming into fruition as we speak, Scorpio. This is crossed by the Two of Swords, which is about a choice. We see still waters behind this figure, and we also see a few little hills in the background. Not a severe mountain range, but perhaps some little obstacles that might be overcome with little effort. Now, the Two of Swords is about a couple of different paths that a person might take. But you can't take both of them at once. And in fact, by holding both of these swords at once, this figure has become paralyzed with inaction. They cannot remove their blindfold until they put one of the swords down, and then they will be able to act on the situation. But they might be listening to their heart. That might be why they're wearing a blindfold. So their intuition can tell them which is the sword they should choose. Usually the swords, the two paths that you might take, are pretty evenly weighted. That neither path is necessarily going to be better than the other, but that the outcomes will be very different. And there might be no turning back once you head down one of those paths. So you have manifested this choice for yourself. Down here in the Imam so the Imam is down at the bottom, beneath the place of the significator, which represents you, the querent, in the reading. And the Imam represents all the origins and foundations upon which the goal or destiny will be built, and we'll be looking at that in the card of the midheaven, which is above the place of the significator and represents the goal or destiny. And here we have the card of wish fulfillment, Scorpio. We have the Nine of Cups. And again, as I mentioned, the red flowers. She's got these beautiful, sumptuous red flowers in a wreath on her head, showing her access and her absorption of this forbidden knowledge, whatever that represents to you. I usually equate it with some things like sex magic or other forms of manifestation that would be considered not like strictly white magic. If that's how you think about those things. I don't really necessarily think of them in fully polarized terms like that, but there's a range of degrees there. She has that profane knowledge. You can see she's got this very, amused look on her face as well. But the world is at her fingertips with this Nine of Cups, the wish fulfillment. So that is going on for you in the current situation, Scorpio. Here, from your perspective on the current situation, we have the Star, and the Star is showing up in the reverse. So the Star card is fellow fixed sign Aquarius's card in the major arcana, Aquarius being fixed air energy. The Star card can represent your social groups as well, with that tie in to the 11th house, and can be about the energies that you're putting into your social groups. Sometimes you see the Star card pouring out the two pitchers, right? And that could be seen as your emotions being poured out to other people and how that's received. The Star card here, from your perspective, could be that you do not see yet that your wishes are being fulfilled. For whatever reason, there might still be communication that hasn't been had yet, especially with some of these air sign energies. And with the Magician, Magician is Mercury, the planet Mercury. So that manifestation is there. Your process is almost complete, but you're not yet able to see some things possibly. From an outside person's perspective, this is very interesting. We see the Empress card in the reverse. Empress in the reverse can be a rejection of feminine qualities. Venus rules the Empress card in the major arcana, and Venus is associated with the signs of Taurus and with Libra. So the Empress is also a passive fertility energy, whereas the Emperor is more like active and putting oneself out there. The Empress is provided for. The Empress also is the kind of creative energy that takes a long time to develop. So what might be going on here? There's a few different things that might be happening. People could see that you're rejecting traditionally feminine roles. You could be leaving a traditionally feminine line of work. But people could also be seeing that you have actively created this for yourself, but not really that. They're not seeing this active creation in which you have had a major part. What they are seeing perhaps is an overnight success, such that they don't necessarily accept your sovereignty as the Empress. That people see that you haven't had to work for something, maybe. But of course, that's not true, and we can tell that's not true. And it's a lot of times it's not true that people don't have to work for things. It might just be an outside perception, especially if you're making it look very easy, Scorpio. Here in the future, we have the Lover's card in the upright. And this is also a card about choice. Again, are we choosing the profane or are we choosing the sacred? Excuse me. And this angel who shows up again on the Judgment card, of course, judging our choices there. That could be the choice that you are presented with at this time is showing back up again in the future. It might be a continual choice down one path or the other. Not that you can turn around and choose the other path, but that you do have the potential to stray from the path that is meant for you if you're not paying attention. Or, life is long and there are so very many choices in it. But we do see some very clear choices here. There's a lot of major arcana energy showing up in your reading this week, Scorpio. The Lover's card can also be about a love relationship showing up in your future. And it is Gemini's card in the major arcana. So, of course, drawing in that duality. And once again, we're talking about air sign energy and communication. Here in your hopes and fears, we have the Six of Pentacles, and it's showing up in the reverse. You could be afraid that you're going to need to receive charity, or that you will not have more money flowing in than is flowing out. Because that's kind of what we see with the Six of Pentacles, is more like this overall balance of money in versus money out over the course of one's life, as opposed to the Two of Pentacles, which can just be more like balancing one's checkbook. But I don't necessarily see that here. I do see two court cards showing up in our final two cards of the reading. So the first card that I'll be addressing is the Midheaven. And that is going to be the result of this wish fulfillment that we have with the Nine of Cups down in the Imam Sili. And we have here the Page of Wands. And the Page of Wands, we've got a lot of pent-up energy here being blown out as this volcano shows in the background. The Page of Wands is earth of fire energy. So manifesting creativity, bringing it down and making it concrete on this plane. The Page of Wands can be somebody who's very precociously eager to learn, but who might not have a lot of information already. Somebody who's creative. The Page of Wands might be a much younger lover as well. This is an active energy balanced by that earth passive energy. So not necessarily a gendered card, but of course the wands are definitely associated with phallic imagery. Here in the final outcome. So the final outcome can kind of be advice as well. It's not just kind of wrapping everything up, but also putting it in perspective for you so that you might understand better how to approach the situation as a whole. Now, remember that in the opposing corner to this final outcome card, we have the Empress card. Somebody who might be perceived as being overly spoiled, or someone who doesn't have to work very hard for things, right? Well, in the final outcome position, Scorpio, we have you showing up in all of your glory as the King of Cups. Now, you don't necessarily have to be, you don't have to identify as masculine to be the King of Cups in your reading. The King of Cups is someone who is an active nurturer. So this is air of water energy. So with that water, we're nurturing emotions. We're being very paternal, very avuncular, someone who could be a mentor to others, someone who might feed and clothe others. And with that air energy, we're actively doing these things. So you could be a provider in the future, Scorpio. That could be your destiny, providing not just for yourself, but for others as well. And having dominion over your emotional states. We do have this fish here too, and the fish sometimes represent money in card decks. So ample and abundant resources coming in for you, Scorpio. And that is going to conclude the Scorpio reading. for this week. Now, I do want to mention once again, between the readings, a few points. One of which is that my chat window, for whatever reason, is not working today. So if you are commenting in the chat, I am very grateful that you're doing so, but I can't read any of it, and I'm not sure why. So I'll figure that out after this live stream is over. Secondly, is that after I do the Pisces reading, I'm going to be going over to the members side of the channel and doing some crystal scrying with this beautiful chunk of smoky quartz. If that interests you, you are cordially invited, but your presence here on the channel is appreciated in whatever form it takes. So, next we are going to be doing the sign of Pisces. Pisces, if you would like to go ahead and set your intention for the reading, allow any of the thoughts or concerns you'd like to address in the reading to rise up to the forefront of your thoughts and wait there patiently to be addressed in the reading. And if these are things that are causing you stress or anxiety, I invite you to gently breathe through that energy. As you inhale, draw in the divine white light of Source. And then as you exhale, just release any of that tension, any of that stress. It will be returned to Source, and it will be transmuted. Okay. Interesting. All right. I'm going to write down your timestamp. So let's start in the past. We have the Eight of Cups. It's very similar to Cancer's reading, where we had the Six of Swords in the past. But here we have the Eight of Cups. Now you see that this is a project. This represents a project that was almost complete and has been abandoned. Now, we don't know where this person is headed, but we do see these big mountains in the background. We can kind of see the hazy glow of either a sunrise or a sunset, and we do see that the moon is already high in the sky. So the mountains can represent obstacles, and we see that this person is walking away from these obstacles. You may have determined, Pisces, that the fight was just not worth the payoff or the result that you thought you could get out of a situation. Now, we are heading off on this journey, it looks like primarily under moonlight. So it could be that you are leaving under the cover of darkness. That's not necessarily fully depicted in this card, but we do see that our primary luminary in this scene is the moon rather than the sun. The moon being the reflected light, it is an inconstant light, and it is not nearly as bright as the sun. So you might be walking away from a situation This card is in the upright and it is in the past, which means that this could be very recent. You could be in the process of, like, you've put in your 2 weeks notice at a job and you are, or your 30 days at an apartment building, something like that, and you're waiting out your time there. Here in the current situation, we do see some echoes of that. In the place of the significator, so this is you, the querent, in the reading. This is the card at the center of the reading. We have the Strength card, which is number 8, and it is Leo's card in the deck. Now you see that even though a lion is a very ferocious and difficult to tame beast, this person has done it with ease. From our reckoning, they make it look easy, right? Getting very cozy with this ferocious beast. And that is their strength, their ability to persuade and tame those around them. That is a type of strength. We do see a big mountain in the background, but it's very far away. So the obstacles are there, they're present, but they are few and they are far away. We see crossing this card the Four of Swords. The Four of Swords is a card of rest and rejuvenation. It is resting after a battle. So what I think these cards are urging you to do in the current situation is utilize this period of resting to your strength and to your advantage. And also to have the strength of patience. You don't see patience showing up explicitly here, but the understanding that what is next is coming very soon, and thus there's not an urgency needed in the current situation. And in fact, reinforcing this down in the MMC, so that is the card that is below the place of the significator, and it represents all of the origins and foundations upon which the destiny, the goal or destiny, will be built. And we'll look at those when we look at the midheaven, which is above the significator. So what we have in the MMC, as a matter of fact, is the Knight of Wands. We see this volcanic explosion in the background. The Knight of Wands is fire of fire energy. And it is definitely about burning the candle at both ends, expending a great deal of energy to make something happen. And where we have this showing up in the reverse in the current situation, the opposite is taking place. That you are, you're either kind of burned out and therefore you don't have the energy to dedicate, or you are having this wait and see attitude, that there's resting and rejuvenation as you exit this situation in particular. From your perspective, this is a really tough card. It is the Five of Swords, and I beg your pardon, it is the Ten of Swords, and it's in the reverse. So you might be feeling like it's time for something to end, but it isn't ending yet. You're kind of waiting for that closure. And that makes this a very tough position to be in for you, Pisces. And that would be why strength is encouraged for you here, and using this time to rest. Here from an outside person's perspective. Now this is really interesting, Pisces, because we have the Eight of Pentacles here. And the Eight of Pentacles can be perceived as long-term work prospects, long-term career, ways of increasing your material wealth that are long-term, could be long-term investments, even long-term passive income streams. And it looks like you've walked away from these. From the outside, it looks to others like you are walking away from this long-term material gain. But you have decided that was what you needed to do. So let's see if we can find out more about that. Because obviously you would have a reason for feeling so. Here in the future, Pisces, we have the Hermit card in the reverse. Now, the Hermit is guarding this light very jealously, has secreted themselves away from the world in order to pursue this higher knowledge, this enlightenment. And on this particular card, they are guarding it very jealously. Now, there are a lot of mountains on the Hermit card, a lot of obstacles. So often the Hermit themselves is depicted as being on a mountain. We see mountains in the background. The mountains also in this case are getting the Hermit closer to the higher power, closer to source, physically speaking, on this plane. So it might be time soon to share that knowledge, share your enlightenment with others. This could be a possibility for you, some of you, to take a retreat. But where we have the Four of Swords here, it looks like you probably are already in retreat. So that in the future, where this card is in the reverse, we're actually going to be seeing you come out of your time of sabbatical and rest, and once again sharing your light with the world. Here in your hopes and fears, Pisces, we have the Three of Wands reversed, and this is in the opposite position to the Ten of Swords in the reverse. So you feel like you have put a lot out there into the world, and you're waiting for that return, and you don't think that that energy is going to be returned to you necessarily. I don't know if that's the case or not. We do have a couple more wands here in our final two positions. So in the midheaven, that is going to be the result of this Knight of Wands in the reverse. So perhaps burnout or inactivity. We have showing up the Ten of Wands. Now, the Ten of Wands is about burdens and about oppression. So this figure, this person here, is expected to carry all 10 of these wands, whether or not they are the person best suited for this job or not. And what this might mean for you, Pisces, is playing a game of catch-up. So the strength that you're going to need to show in the current situation is related to our final outcome card. We have the Two of Wands there in the final outcome. And the Two of Wands, we have a variety of terrain here. We've got forest, we've got a few mountains, we have a bright and vivid sky, we have the person holding a globe, so could also be about looking at maps, planning a trip, charting a course. The Two of Wands is all about planning, and that is the strength that you need to be showing at this time, Pisces, to prevent yourself from being overburdened during the time when you need to act more than usual. I don't think it's wrong for you, Pisces, in the current situation to not be acting or not doing as much to try to propel the action forward. But do understand that this is an excellent time for you to be planning for what the future may bring, that you might not become overburdened. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone who joined me here on the live stream. I do apologize that the chat window is not working for me this stream, so that is why I have not been verbally responding to anything that you've written in the chat. I do greatly appreciate your sentiments, and I do apologize that I'm not able to read them. I will figure that out before I do the next live stream. I will be going now over to the members side of the channel, and I'm going to be using this beautiful smoky quartz to do some crystal scrying. So if that is of interest to you, you are cordially invited. But your presence here on the channel is greatly appreciated in whatever form it takes. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you again very